low self-esteem, and it will look like they cannot do anything, or they look inferior to their peers.
Clap for yourself, clap for yourself.
As I said, we started exactly May last year. So this is just 1 year, and we have had a total of 12 kids, about 12, 13 kids. And some of them are still on now.
Well, I must say it has been an amazing one. It has really been amazing. I get to meet wonderful kids every day. Yes, I see them and I'm like, God, these kids are just wonderful, because the world might not see them in that way, but meeting them every day has been like a blessing to me. Being able to interact with kids, it has been great.
My advice to parents that they should find out and keep a close eye on their child. Try to find out about their disabilities earlier in life, so that it will reduce the amount of time that we have to teach them.
Early detection matters. If your child is delaying, just come and find out if it's disorder or delay. We will tell you. If it's delay, we'll just tell you to go. With time, he will talk. But if it's disorder, you have to start immediately to intervene to help the child. Please find a good learning environment for your child. Find a center that understands their challenge and they'll be able to tackle their challenge with the right resources and with the right frame of mind. It's not a flogging issue. They need all the love and care they can get, and they also need the professional touch to get them out of where they are.
Many thanks for joining us in the newsroom. I'm Tamilore Akinkwole, and these are the stories we're following at the moment. For the third time in 7 days, gunmen have attacked Okoloke, an agrarian community in Yagba West local government area of Kogi State, abducting 4 persons. The latest incident occurred in the early hours of Tuesday when an unidentified number of armed men stormed the area. According to local sources, the assailant forced their way into the residence of Ezekiel Durojaye, a retiree and respected community leader in nearby Okoron village. The attackers abducted Durojaye along with 3 others, whisking them away into the bush at gunpoint. The incident has further heightened fear and tension among residents. And 1 person has been confirmed dead, other injured, and properties destroyed after a truck reportedly suffered brake failure and crashed into the busy Isheri market in Opik bus stop along Lagos-Ibadan Expressway on Wednesday morning. According to motorcyclists who witnessed the incident, the truck was approaching the Opik area when the driver lost control due to brake failure. The truck reportedly attempted to avoid crashing into the estate's gate by swerving to the right, but in doing so, it plowed through market stalls, injuring unsuspected victims and destroying goods and structures in its path. And a member of the House of Representatives, Iduma Igawe, has called for the cancellation of the 2025 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination, citing what it described as a catastrophic institutional failure by the Joint Admission and Matriculation Board. Iguarabe, who leads the Southeast Caucus in the House, made the call during an interview on Tuesday. He said the whole thing has lost its integrity and it has lost its fairness, and people who took the exam and took their time to prepare for the exam were no longer in the position to do it again. And the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian University, SANO, University of Lagos branch, has expressed its disappointment in the satisfaction over the recent distribution formula adopted for the disbursement of the 15 billion naira approved by the Nigerian government for university-based unions. The formula allocates 80% to the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, and 20% to the other 3 unions, which include NASU, SANO, and NAT. According to them, they consider the action by the government unfair, unjust, and contrary to the principles of equity and fairness. They added that non-teaching staff significantly contribute to the overall functioning of Nigerian universities, and the allocation should reflect these. And Nigeria's external reserve witnessed a net increase of over $260 million within a single week, signaling a modest improvement in the country's foreign account. Latest data from the Central Bank of Nigeria revealed that the increase began on May 9th, when the reserve stood at $38.12 billion, and the figure has risen to $38.21 billion by May 12th. It continued to gain, reaching $38.30 billion on May 14 and $38.33 billion on May 15, before closing the week on $38.38 billion on May 16. And on the global scene, rising crime, corruption, and instability in Africa and Latin America have been linked to increasing demand for gold and other mineral resources. This was revealed in a new report released on Tuesday by the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. Illegal mining is intensifying environmental damage, the study emphasizes, including via the use of banned or hazardous chemicals like mercury, deforestation to enable access to mineral deposits, and illegal dumping of solid waste. And finally, on sport, Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola said he will leave the club if they don't listen to his request about keeping the squad small. Guardiola on Wednesday explained that he does not want a large squad because it would mean some players won't get a chance to play. He said it would bother his conscience to sign players only to leave them on the bench. And those are the stories we're following at the moment. We'll update you at the top of the hour. Bye for now.
It's extremely important to recognize that Afghanistan is one of the world's most climate impacted countries and also prone to natural disasters. I was able to witness firsthand the work that has been done on reintegrating refugees and returnees coming into the province, looking at the work that has been done in response to the earthquake in this area. Innovative approaches have been undertaken by the United Nations and partners to have local vernacular structures which are earthquake resistance, rebuilding permanent structures in this village behind me. I have seen again firsthand the collective efforts of the local authorities, of the partners, NGOs and the United Nations in trying to rebuild the lives together with the communities here. The response has enabled people to rebuild lives in a very challenging environment. And in my visit in Herat, I have had the opportunity to look at private sector enterprises that are working, bringing Afghan men and women into the marketplace, into economic activity, and particularly women-led micro and small enterprises was eye-opening to look at the potential on one side and the need for support for these enterprises to scale up through investments in microfinance, access to markets, support in business literacy skills, etc. This is a vital part of rebuilding Afghanistan with its private sector, tapping into the human capital of Afghan men and women, and affording the space, particularly for women and girls, to contribute and have the space to be part of the nation-building process of Afghanistan.
If the essence of government is the security and welfare of the people, then as long as there's plenty, poverty is evil. Affluent poverty. That's what we live in Nigeria. We're living in affluent poverty. The news recently broke that a British international primary school, Charterhouse, located somewhere in Lekki, Lagos, was charging as much as 42 million per annum as school fees for its pupil in a poor country like ours. However, the school management issued a statement clarifying the claim that the school fees are currently 26 million naira per annum and not 42 million. Oh boy, now wow. 26 million as school fees per annum for Pekin when they primary school in a poor country like Nigeria, where many states can't even pay 30,000 naira as minimum wage. And many of our public schools in the country are public slums. And unemployment rate is frightening as fraud is now celebrated as a profession. 26 million. Well, I know some of you will go to defend them now. They say, if education is expensive, try ignorance. And others will say, well, it's the school is attended by expatriate, kids of expatriate. Even at that, maybe for Nigeria that they make the money, whether they pay the expatriate salary, must education be beyond the poor in a country like Nigeria, where ostentatious lifestyle is the attitude of government? So if you pay 26 million naira for a kid in primary school, that means you go pay 62 million naira for that kid in secondary school. And maybe 112 million for the same child when he enter university. And then the child will graduate, there won't be jobs. And then you send the child abroad. Is that not overhead? Go to countries like Poland, Germany, Czech Republic. Charles University and the University of Warsaw are some of the cheapest universities where top-tier programs are offered at an affordable rate. Although universities in all the Nordic countries are relatively affordable, but public universities in Norway remain free for everybody from both within and outside the EU, with the exception of a few specialized programs. But here in Nigeria, go to Edo University in Iyamo. It is ranked as the most expensive state-owned university in Nigeria. Yet, the other state university, Edo State University in Ekpoma, under the previous administration of Godwin Obaseki, suffered from lack of infrastructure and adequate funding until the recent administration in Edo. So what that means is simply this: rich separated themselves from the poor. Now, wow. How many people still remember, the craze those days about Lekki British International School? But with the current school fees of 4.6 million and 6.8 million, for boarding, I guess the super rich now, when they pay 26 million as school fees for primary school children, would think, oh, that's poor. So came Charterhouse, and yet government go look the other way in a poor country. We know job despite the expensive school, and you expect people not to steal? Yeah, well, what am I even saying? What can government do? When even Nile University in Abuja, where most of our government officials and Abuja politicians, they go get their degree, especially in law, no come cheap. And even some churches, when collect tithe and offering from members to build schools, most of these members that contributed the tithe and offering cannot afford to send their children to these schools. So what do you expect? Even recently, remember Wigwe University in Isiokpo in Rivers State was in the news, not for the death of its founder, but as the most expensive university in Nigeria, with school fees ranging from 12 million naira. And some of these fees are priced in dollars. And our government is pretending to be looking for solution to our dollar problem, while they turn a blind eye to this open segregation in a country where our collective welfare is supposed to be their responsibility. Oh boy, to your tent, oh Israel. You won't blame them though. Don't you see how we openly spray monies in parties as if money is going out of faction? So that's why they think we are rich. Yet, there are no roads to our villages and insecurity is ravaging the country. Even as our public officials drive around our dilapidated road and public slums in exotic and expensive cars, the cars will neither produce nor assemble here. Yet, with retinue of aides and barrage of mobile police, where the future generations are either emerged in prostitution, hookup, or fraud, I beg no verse, yahoo, as a means of livelihood. Outrageous display of affluent poverty, you would say. This is the reason why some properties without any special infrastructure around them in some area, some area never get road, apart from the fact that there's so much money to waste, are so expensive and priced in dollars in places like Maitama, Sokoro, and environs in Abuja, and Banana Island, and in some places in Lagos, in a poor country like Nigeria, than properties in Miami waterfront in rich America. So no matter how much we all condemn or criticize these things, It will not go away because the reality is that most Nigerians want to be like these people who are physically rich but mentally poor. As we only criticize them when we are poor, but the moment we become rich or hold public office, we will create segregation, poor and the rich. We move over to expensive slums like Lekki, send our children to special schools, meant only for the rich, occupy government positions and steal public funds, ride expensive cars without identifiable or sustainable means of livelihood, and display wealth irresponsibly and spray endlessly at parties. That's just our life. So, it no go stop. So if I lie, anyway, check those occupying public offices today. Between 15 and 12 years ago, they were mostly critics of the attitude of the government then. But today, they are all in government and repeating exactly what they once criticized, even if not even worse. So I will therefore advocate, until we see government as a vehicle for public good, social justice, creating job opportunities, infrastructural development, equality, and a vehicle for impacting our community positively, people will continue to chase wealth, material possession, and position as a way of life and end up not living at all. Government must take job creation as a priority and endeavor to consciously and consensuously celebrate and compensate